gentlemen. Thank you for being here today for our fourth lecture, the fourth in the series of My Business Journey by Dr. Habil Khorakiwala, the founder, chairman of Work Hard. As you know, this is an entrepreneurial journey that the IMC has started off. The president IMC, Dr. Lalit Kanodia, he started off and conceived this to ensure that people, the youngsters especially, they understand the entrepreneurial journey of the founders, the leading businessmen, and to understand what are the possibilities, what are the pitfalls, and how you can learn from them. So this particular series has been gaining a lot of traction. We get a lot of students especially who are really enthused about it. The four leaders who have actually gone through this particular series. The very first one was Mr. Niranjan Hiranandani. We had Dr. Lalit Kanodia, we had Mr. Mukesh Batra, and now we have Dr. Habil Khorakiwala. So we now request Dr. Lalit Kanodia to please welcome you and start the process. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure, personal pleasure, to introduce to this audience my good friend, Dr. Habil Khorakiwala. Habil and I are members of the same Rotary Club, and Habil has been a director on my company in the past for many years. Pharmaceuticals from the L&M College of Pharmaceuticals in Ahmedabad. Subsequent to this, he went to the United States and he has a master's degree in pharmaceuticals from one of the Ivy League colleges, Purdue University. Later, Purdue honored him with an honorary doctorate in 2010, and he is the only non-American to have received this honor. He has also been conferred with the prestigious honorary doctorate from the Kalinga Institute of Industrial Technology. Habil has conceived and built Vocard into one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in India today. The company has also a very, very strong presence in the USA and Europe. I must compliment him because he is spending a very large amount of money on research and development, which very few Indian companies do. He is very proud of the fact that he is inventing new molecules to cure diseases in the world. And they have already been marketed worldwide by Vocard. He strongly believes that the overuse of antibiotics, which we humans have developed resistance to, and he's working on a miracle drug to deal with this problem. And if this comes into the market, it will be a revolution in the world of pharmaceuticals. Besides his interest in pharmaceuticals, I know Habil is very passionate about hospitals. That's his first love. Am I right, Habil? Your first love is hospitals. And he has a chain of hospitals around the country. He's also very committed to corporate social responsibility, or CSR. And he, of course, has a foundation called the Vocard Foundation, which helps the underprivileged, in which his son and his wife take a very, very keen interest. Habil has been president of FICCI, one of our apex chambers of commerce, in 2006-2007. The Chancellor of the Jamia Hamdard University in New Delhi. He has served as the Honorary Consul of Sweden in Mumbai. He is a regular attendant of the World Economic Forum at Davos, which keeps him up to date ahead of others all the time. He is a proud recipient from Mother Teresa of the Shiromani Vikas Award for Outstanding and Inspiring Contribution towards National Development. Habil, that's really something very special. Very special. He was awarded the Entrepreneur of the Year by Ernst & Young in 2004 and also by the UK Trade Investment in 2008. He's a recipient of the Lifetime Achievement Award of the Pharma Excellence Awards by the Indian Express Group in 2006 and by Frost & Sullivan in 2012. He has built Vocard in an institution that cares for its employees And WOCAT has been conferred one of the great places to work, a dream company to work for in 2015. So you can see we have very, very special guest today, and I'm sure all of you will gain tremendously from his vast experience and what he has done. I recently attended his 50th celebration where he started WOCAT, a great event. He tells me 1,700 people were there. I was there, fortunate to be there. There were any number of ministers and dignitaries in that event. He's also published a book which is not in the market but should be out next month, which I've read it because I was fortunate to get a copy in advance. And it's something which I would recommend all of you read. It really tells you a life story of somebody who has done it from scratch to the pinnacle. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure all of you are eager to hear Habil. So with that, Habil.
IMC Dr. Lalit Karodia, the Vice President Mr. Raj Nair, the Director General Arvind Pradhan, my friends, members of IMC, and I see a lot of students here, and ladies and gentlemen. I would like this, my talk to be, I'll talk about whatever I wanted to say, and then we could have an interaction. I'll be very happy to respond to that, because the best one gets out of me is when you interact. That is where the real issues come up. So in a structured speech, one gets it, but that is thought which are done in advance rather than instantaneously reacting to it. What I would like to do basically to give you a 30-second overview of what we are as a company. Ours is about 50-year-old company. I started the company many years back, and we went through our various stages of growth. So today we are a global company where we have about 2/3 of our business coming outside India. We have about 10,000 people in our hospitals, in our pharmaceuticals, and we have a foundation and each one of is managed by my children. The pharmaceutical business is managed by Murtuza, who is my son. Hospital is my daughter, Zahabia. And the foundation is my eldest son, who is a Yale graduate, looking after a full-time foundation. So all three are to us an equal activity. And as Lalit rightly said, we spend one of the largest amount in research and development. We spend about 14 to 15% of sales. And many times it is more than the profit we earn for the year. So that's the kind of a commitment as an organization which we have for today, not only for today, but for the future. Before I talk specifically of WOCAT and my own experience, I thought I'll give you a very quick overview of the industry, pharmaceutical industry as a whole. And it is one of the industry which is very least talked about in terms of what it has achieved and the kind of accomplishment it has done over the last several decades. One of the things is one of the rare industry where 98% of the medicine you get here are manufactured in India. It is around $32 billion industry, $35 billion now, this was a few years back, and about half of what industry manufactures are exported. More importantly, I think some of the global problems of managing critical diseases, India has contributed enormously. For example, HIV, AIDS. You know what was the kind of problem we had 10, 15, 20 years back. If India was not there, we made this medicine available to Africa and other countries at a cost 98% lower than what was available. And that has made possible for the disease to come under control. Otherwise, it would have never been under control. And today, still India supplies 75% of HIV/AIDS medicine worldwide. Vaccination, where you prevent a lot of problem in life, all vaccination, which is all the government gives. 60% of vaccination is produced in India and supplied to the world. So if you look at the real contribution, the dollar numbers are one thing, but in terms of human health and treatment, the industry has done enormously. But most importantly, recently, in last 15 years, after liberalization and when industry went outside India, bought a lot of companies, been there in US and Europe. Today, 30%, 1 in 3 prescription in United States is written, the medicine is supplied from India. And this is in one of the most competitive market in the world. So that's the kind of change the industry has brought about over last so many decades and made India more or less not only self-sufficient but globally competitive. Now, what I would like to talk specifically about our company, and the one thing in life which is very important, that organization is a living being. Like all of us are living beings, we have a limited life. Average in India is about 66 years, worldwide is about 75 years. So we have limited life. Similarly, organization has a life. Some have a life for short life of few years, and some lives for centuries and generations. And why does this happen? What is it the organization do whereby it remains for a very long period of time? And I believe it is important because every organization lives in an environment. And the environment is changing. I think in our lifetime, in 10, 15 years, we have seen things have changed so dramatically. And it is changing faster now than ever before. And therefore, it is important for organizations to reinvent every now and then. And if they don't reinvent themselves from every now and then, I think soon the competition takes over and they cease to exist. So, as far as our concerned, what has happened to WOCAT, every 10, 15, 17 years, we have reinvented ourselves. And that has been, and therefore, when you say reinventing, how do you reinvent that basically? So we have gone through first stage. When I started a company, we were very small. The issue was survival and stabilization. And that is what happened in first 10, 15 years of the organization. We put a new factory in Aurangabad. I had no money. So I went to SIGCOM, got some money. And that's how it started. So it was really a survival. So that was the first phase. Then I did a small program at Harvard, AMP program, about 13 weeks program. Because I realized at that point in time that we have to reinvent ourselves for the next stage where we have already survived. Because we were dealing with one factory, one technology, and one market. So I think our next phase was primarily India-based growth. We become a significant player in the next 10, 15 years. We went into new technologies. Instead of making just medicine, went into bulk drugs, started making the nutritional product. So there are acquisition of new technologies there. And therefore, one of the things which we have been doing continuously right from the beginning is managing the risk. How do you manage a risk? Because when you want to grow, when you want to do different things, there is a risk. So one of the ways we have managed the risk is to combine what we know, what we do well, what is our strength on one hand, and in a related space, try to do something which is new to us. For example, we were in pharmaceuticals and we want to manufacture bulk drug technology. So the only new was the technology, not the business. So that is how we have managed the risk. So initially our ability to manage this was limited. But as we grew, you can start managing, doing different things in different space. So when India liberalized, that was the second phase of our growth. When India liberalized, Narasimha Rao opened up India. So ours is probably the only industry, this Bombay Club was there, And they were worried about liberalization, big guys at that time, that you are throwing us open to competition, what will happen? And they said we should slow down. But I think it was one of our industry was a very few industry. IT was another one, which have succeeded also, where industry took up as an opportunity and a challenge. Okay, we were confined to India. Now you are liberalized, you can go outside India. Second, the Patent Act, which was there, which was protecting everything, is going away in 10 years' time. So you have to invest in research. So both these becomes, VOCATs also is a part of that process of major change. So over the next 10, 15 years, we acquired 6 or 8 companies in US and Europe. We have about 1,500 people working there today. We have manufacturing facility in US, UK, Ireland. So that is how we took that as a challenge and opportunity. And I tell you same thing, like we knew how to do business, how to manufacture the product. So our new learning was geographical learning, how to do business in US or UK or outside India. Second was, how do you understand the mindset of as a global company? In India, we have a very different environment. It's a very competitive industry in India, but the approaches are different there. The value of your quality is very important. The contracts are very important. Your commitments are very important. So all those becomes a part of new learning, new knowledge for the organization per se. So that is how one aspect which we became global. As I said, we are about 2/3 of business outside. In phase 2, we had hardly 2 or 3% of export supplying to Africa and others. Today, all our exports is primarily to US and Europe, and coming out of the businesses which we have there. The second important things which we have done in last 17, 18 years, 20 years, is invested in research. So initially, our approach on research was fundamentally pharmaceuticals, make generic products. Then we went into technology-savvy products so that you remain more competitive in the US market. And that is how organization built up its business. Additionally, we took up 2 other areas of research activity. One in biologicals, because I saw that biologics in terms of medicine is going to play a very important role. So we were one of the first to develop insulin outside the innovators for the first time in the world. We developed some other biotech products and introduced here in India. So that was another space which we focus on research and build up entirely new capabilities of technology. In the area which I think VOCAT will get into a transform in the next phase from what we are today would be our drug discovery program on antibiotics. And I tell you that many of us in India at that time, Ranbaxy, Reddy's and few others, decided to invest in drug discovery program, all of us, but each one took a different route of how to do it and what to do it. So I'll just tell you our experience. I don't want to comment on the others because none of the research is surviving today. Those research programs have been done because it's a high race. It takes 20 years, 25 years before you see a drug, and you need to have the capacity to sustain it. So it took me 2 years to understand how drug discovery research is taken worldwide. I visited Pfizer, I visited Sandoz, which is now Novartis, spent some of the work with the scientists who worked on that area. And the position I took was, I have to be in a space where billions of dollars are spent by big pharma in research. I cannot compete head on. Because if I do the same thing, we don't have the resources nor the ecosystem here in India which can support that kind of work. So I thought, and I considered research as a drug discovery as a part of a business, not as an activity where I out-license the product at early stages. That was so from all the analysis I came to a view, I'm not going into the whole aspect, that antibiotics was one area where a big pharma has given up for last 10, 15 years, and that is a reality today. Why we are seeing the crisis today of infection and superbugs every day you read in the newspaper, because there is so little research has been done over the last 30 years, 40 years. And all organisms over a period of time develop resistance, and you have to find a better antibiotic. So that was one of the reasons Big Pharma is not there, because you can't get billions of dollars of product at that point in time. So we thought we will be there. The second important consideration was that India and emerging market use of antibiotic is about 20-25% of total sale of pharmaceuticals. So my logic was very simple. Let us get into the field. By our competition globally is limited, and at least if not, emerging market is available anyway. So that was the logic. The second important aspect is that when you manage research, because we have about 800 people, we have research in pharmaceutical, others, you treat that part of organization very differently than you would treat a normal business organization. Because on business organization, you have your sales, you have manufacturing, you have performance happening at a very short interval, and you ask for performance and people contribute. Whereas the research, you have to understand nothing happens in short time. Especially a drug discovery research, even a pharma generic product takes 5 years before you see go in the market. So you have to treat this as a scientist. And that is what we did right from the beginning, very differently than I would treat, because I understand that it takes time. Second important aspect is that unlike executives and people working in a business organization, everybody is satisfied with their own performance and if they do well. But as far as the research scientist is considered, because they don't get quick wins. Sales people, they can get quick wins every day or every month. Manufacturing guys get quick wins every time when they achieve numbers. Research guys don't get quick wins. They take years, sometimes decades. Therefore, you need to learn to appreciate every stage of that little successes they make and recognize that as an organization. And you have to have a lot different kind of approach to deal with them, and that is what we did. You would not believe that the team which we have, very small team today, we have in drug discovery in Aurangabad, about 100 people out of those 700-800, only 100-120. About 25, another 40-50 is in the clinical and other areas. This team is about 20 years plus old. We have yet to introduce a drug anywhere in the world. And I have no turnover of those people. 1%, 2%. Max. And they leave other than organizational reason once in a while. You know, this is a kind of commitment and dedication you get from people, because I can tell you that in drug discovery space worldwide, 90% of people spend their lifetime doing a research and they don't get a drug. So if that vision is very clear, that the company is committed to back them up all the way and have the patience to work with them, that is what they are prepared to do. Now I'll tell you where we are today. This is a commitment where it will lead us. We have 5 molecules today. US FDA has given us a fast track breakthrough status. They are all completed up to phase 2 clinical trial. Now phase 2 clinical trial, in terms of science, you know, you normally start with 3, 4, 5,000 chemical molecule to get a drug. So generally after phase 2, your success rate is about 88% in anti-infective. So we have all our 5 drugs going into phase 3 now. And we will be introducing in India our first drug within the next 2.5 years. And almost all these 4 or 5 drugs will get introduced. And 2 of them we are taking all the way globally. US, Europe, everywhere. So by 21, 22, we will have all the drugs in the global market. Why these drugs have been given breakthrough status? Because it has an unmet need. Some of the superbugs are today uncurable. If you look at the amount of incidents you find, that in intensive care, patient die because of infection. I don't think people 15 years back or 20 years back used to hear that. And every year you are hearing more and more, mainly because some of these superbugs are untreatable with what the antibiotics available. And our drugs do that. So not only we will be bringing these products into India, US and global market, but I hope that we will be saving millions of lives. I'll tell you, there was a report, why US is identified and Europe is also working very hardly to encourage companies to come with these drugs. There was a report by Lord O'Neill, who was earlier the chairman of Goldman Sachs. And this is a report published, created by the British government. And he studied the research work done globally. This is about 1.5 to 2 years report, recent one. And he came to a view that unless antibiotic research is supported, and if there are not many new drugs come in, 10 million people will die by 2050 per year. And I am telling everybody he will not be right, because our drug will solve many of those problems. But that is the extent of the issue which one is facing. So I believe at the end of the day, and that is how we have done in our hospitals also, just to tell you very briefly, that we went to tertiary care hospital. We had a small one at Bangalore. And one day, a few people from Harvard Medical School comes and talks to me in late 90s. After 2 or 3 hour discussion, they tell me that we are interested to work with you. I said, why? Because we are very hardly there, at that time. And they said they have gone to all the big people having hospitals. But he says no one has the understanding of the kind of clinical outcome one wants in a hospital and the value system. And they say their only objective fundamentally is to come to developing world and align is to improve the quality of clinical care and to raise to a standard. And they have observed that even if one hospital in a city has a very high standard and everybody is here, everybody tries to improve the standard. They may not match us, but still the community, and that's why we want to encourage. And then I had a model. I said there is someone to help me to run all the hospitals, and that is how we went into hospital. And I don't know anybody has visited our latest South Mumbai hospital, you know the difference which is our hospital has compared to any hospitals anywhere. I can tell you one of my nephew, he lives in California. And he had an emergency, he got my bhabhi, that is mother. But he went into our emergency and didn't tell anyone. And he himself had a major accident and he was in the US hospital for 2 months. So he says, you are not only world class. I think this started as an exist, both in terms of quality as well as in terms of the speed with which you respond. So what is the purpose of the organization? All of us ask, what is the purpose of us as a human being? What is the purpose of organization? To me, it is no different. All of us wants to make difference in our lives and the lives of others. Organization has to do exactly the same thing. Making money, making profits, okay, it is there. And I believe if you do the right things, those things will take care of itself. But fundamental purpose, I believe, of an organization is what difference you make to lives of people and the community you are in. And therefore, I believe that why some organization sustains for 100, 200, 300 years and some die quickly is they align themselves with the community and the society they live in. And they contribute and they become relevant. They don't have a single animal spirit which people call in a financial world. The only way to survive is to have the animal spirit. These are fine to get your quarterly results and quarterly improvement in share prices, but this is not the formula for a long-term survival of the organization. And that is why we have this theme of the organization, life wins. You know, VOCAT, we have life wins. You know, it looks very simple. Why? What we mean by life wins, and what I tell you, it is such an empowering 2 words to everybody working in the organization, to keep them on a straight path when the difficult choices are there. They choose for life, whatever way. Developing a product, developing a quality in a hospital, taking up care, or in a foundation, whatever you do, which I have not talked much about it, but we can talk afterwards if someone asks me the question. What we do, I'll tell you. So that is very empowering. And sometimes organization needs this very clearly defined why you are there. And this vision is very important for organization. Because how do you make sure that 10,000 people with ET nationality worldwide how do you communicate? You can communicate with a lot of media, but how do you make sure? But you provide this single simple vision. Okay, when you have a difficult choice, what you should do. And that is what it does. And someone has said, it is better to have a meaningful life and make a difference than to merely have a long life. Now, I shared a lot of stuff, but if I have to summarize few things of our success, or anyone's success as a matter of fact, what is it? Some of this has come, but few other things I must say. One, cannot be a successful if you don't believe in yourself and your future. You have to be optimistic. One. Second, ideas are not good enough. Because ideas are plenty. People write books, philosophy, management books, everything people write. So therefore, one requires a very high degree of energy. And I'm not here referring to only physical energy, which everybody understands. Building muscles and other things becoming a very common thing now. For all actors, having nice muscle, that becomes a prerequisite, which wasn't there 25 years back. So that is part of energy, but real energy is a mental energy. Because sometimes we do not give enough thought process and thinking of our mental faculty we have. When we have difficulty, we give up. When we deal with a tough situation, we give up. When we come across unexpected hurdles, we give up. That is where the mental energy counts. That is that will and ability to respond to that and find a solution. Sometimes some of the most innovative and creative things you do when you are in stress of this kind. And that is how the use of mental. I'll tell you a small story on mental, the power of thinking and what brain means to a person. This was an article appeared in one of the very famous, well-respected medical journal, Lancet. It comes out of UK. And this was written about long back, not recently, 20, 30 years back. But it's a very revealing. Those who have visited London, they will know that their cab drivers, they generally go through 3 years of training. They know every nook and part of London. You give them an address, they will give you by the shortest cut. They will know all aspects of entry, no entry, traffic, everything, and they will take you. Before we had GPS system. They still do. They don't follow GPS if you go even today to London. So they examined, Lancet article said they examined the brains of cab drivers of London after they died. And what they had come with a unique observation, that the size of brain was bigger than a normal brain of they have come across. Then there was a further, they said, that the older the cab driver brain were even bigger than the younger fellows who died. What does it say? Fundamentally, from a medical point of view, the more you use your brain and gray cells, the more your ability and sharpness and alertness come. And then when I talk of energy, I talk of this kind of energy, which is very necessary. Let me tell you, there are two sides of life. When you take risk, you succeed or you fail, right? So people like success, people don't like failures. I believe both are very important. Success gives you confidence to move forward. Failure gives you a great learning opportunity if you know how to use that failure. And if you follow one single principle in life, I will never repeat my mistake again in life. Then you really learn from your failure. If you make a mistake today and after 1 week you make the same mistake, you haven't learned from your failure. But if you take that I don't mind failing, I accept my failures, but I will not fail on the same basis next time in life. That is where you start learning a lot from failure. And everybody who takes this succeeds and fails. There is no one who says I've succeeded or everything I did in life. So both are very important. And I like to quote here Michael Jordan, who he was one of the great basketball player in US all time. And this is what he said: I have missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I have lost 300 games. 26 times I have been trusted to take the game winning shot and failed. I have failed over and over and over again, and that is why I succeeded. The other very important aspect is because what happens in life is you grow in business, as we have grown, and my personal experience, you deal with few things, and as organization becomes complex, you have to deal so many things. But nothing in life is certain. There is always uncertainty. The question is, how do I respond to uncertainty in life? Are we uncomfortable? Am I uncomfortable with uncertainty, or I get too much worried about it? So I think when one has to really move in life, one has to learn to be comfortable with uncertainty in life, because it's a part of life. It is a part of the process. All management book tells you do this way or that way. Clear cut, black and white. There is no black nor white. Everything is various shades of grey. And therefore our ability to live with uncertainty, ambiguity, and be comfortable with that is a good thing. But it's not that you remain with the same level of uncertainty all your life. You do something about it and remove that. You remove one uncertainty, another uncertainty will come. But you need not get affected by the uncertainty. And that is one quality you can cultivate over a period of time. You know, some artists you go, they are very emotional, very reactive. Why? Because they live in a world which is different, and they think they have to express emotion all the time. Leaders don't do that. That's the difference, because every profession requires a different degree of understanding and skill sets. The other important aspect is you cannot succeed in life if you follow what everybody has done. Sometimes I tell lightly to some of the management experts that all management books are history. Because they do research of what is the management practice and they write what people are doing, and which is important. Like physical science or physics or chemistry or biology, that is important to know what has happened. But more importantly is what you do is not necessary. Therefore, it is a hygiene factor. Okay, you don't make the mistakes or past learning and repeat those. Good people, wise people don't do that. They learn from that. They do. But at the same time, the success only comes, you do things differently. You create your own path. If you always follow, you can't succeed. Success means new things, innovation, creativity. And that is a path others have not traveled. Then people talk of vision. You need vision for anything in life. And I have a quotation here which says, vision without action is a daydream. Isn't it? Action without vision is a nightmare. Because you go on doing something you don't know, then you get frustrated. But vision with action is a transformation. And I think that is what all of us must try to do. The other thought which I thought I'll leave behind, and I talked about our life wins. And therefore, the values you have imbibed in yourself and in your organization. Because the environment is very muddy. If you look at environment all the time, either in India or anywhere in the world, it's muddy. And it always pushes towards doing things which is not right. But the only thing which keeps you in track is your value system. In long run, it is the value which you keep consistently, doing the right thing, following good values, that makes a difference. Because the difference is this. Because if people perceive you credible and consistent in what you do, you become a desirable entity in business also. People value that. So next time you tell your people within the organization or to your other stakeholders, they believe in you. You have achieved 50% of battle. So therefore value is very important. And Einstein has said very nicely, try not to become a man of success, but rather try to become a man of value. So if you are a man of value, you will succeed. But if you try too much success without values, you can't succeed. And finally, I just want to say, most important thing in life is, sometimes, a lot of people do a lot of things, different ways. And sometimes we have a thought process, and we looked at a situation, and we think slightly differently. Then self-doubt comes, why nobody thinks and why I am thinking? Why nobody is doing and I want to do it? This doubt comes in my mind. So what do? You have two options. Follow what everybody is doing or believe in yourself. And do what you believe is right. Sometimes you will be right, sometimes you may be wrong, it doesn't matter. But important thing is you must believe in yourself. Then only you live your life and you can make your life. And with this final quote of Vivekananda I have, you cannot believe in God until you believe in yourself. And let me just conclude by saying another quote, don't let anyone steal your dream. It is your dream, not theirs.
Activity in chemical has brought down tremendously. All the big pharma global players don't trust India anymore, so
I'll stay there now.
question you have to ask.
Yeah, I'm just,
What went wrong?
sorry, yeah, what went wrong, obviously, and with that.
Has not taken that kind of a drug before. In Western countries, there are very few to get a patient like that is very difficult. In India, because it's not that difficult to get a large number of patients. So a combination of both these was perfect. India was doing extremely well. Some news items, some one or two. Anything you do, there will be some problems coming here. Gets exaggerated, and government comes with all kind of silly regulation and kills. So the industry is dead. Cannot be revived. Because China has taken away that business completely. So it was running into billions of dollars, and it could have become, India could have become the first choice actually, because of language, because of ease of doing, degree of transparency, democracy we have. But that is gone. I don't know it will be right. In fact, company like us, we don't do clinical trials in India very much. Two reasons. One is very difficult to do that now, because the time they take to give permission, by the time we can finish the clinical trial. And in a new drug, time is the value when you have a limited patent life. So we spend 10 times, 20 times more money for same kind of work in US or Europe, but we do that. A lot of work we could have done in phase 1 clinical very easily here. We have competency, we have infrastructure, everything. But we thought that we do everything outside to save time. Second, there is not scientific understanding here properly. Because we don't have the culture of drug discovery, because we have dealt with it, drug controller every time. We find them having no knowledge of how to deal with new drug discovery. The knowledge base is extremely inadequate. And to build an ecosystem, it takes a long time to do that, basically. The clinical trial was a very good way for India to come up very quickly in innovation and drug discovery and create an ecosystem, because all the big pharma was doing clinical trial here. So India would have become a part of a global ecosystem of doing, and that by itself it generates a kind of momentum, and that momentum is gone. It may get revived, but I don't think it can get revived soon enough. Our own experience with drug controller for new drugs is pathetic. Yes.
Good evening to all. Thanking you for the amazing inspirational speech that you conveyed today. My name is Ramesh Thakur, and I am a entrepreneur who has been working on a startup venture. And just wanted to understand, as Dr. Lalit Kanodia was mentioning, about the charity aspect of Waka Group, and what are you doing for the underprivileged sector of the system, or the CSR aspect of Waka?
See, I tell you, we started our foundation much before CSR became law. And our focus of foundation was twofold, because my son Josefa was involved in VOCAT about 8-9 years back. And we had a small activity going, and he was looking after. So one day he comes and tells me, okay, I am happy with foundation work, and I want to spend full time, nearly full time, 90% of his time there. I said, all right, go ahead and do it. So since he is a Yale management graduate, we have organized foundation in terms of processes like you run a good organization. So, and our focus has been in the healthcare fundamentally, followed by education. Healthcare mainly because we come from healthcare, we know exactly where is the gap. And so today there are 8 or 10 verticals he runs in foundation. We have about 400 people working in our foundation today. So what we do generally, like we have a mobile health clinic where we have doctor and medicine which goes to remote villages. Then we have e-learning program where we have, and we cover about 500 schools. So it's on scale. And our approach is twofold. Okay, we do with our own fun activity and perfect a model like mobile healthcare or e-learning or the khel mein there are so many other. But then we offer that to other corporate, and we do for them. So we provide this. The idea is to make an impact. So if we alone do it with all our resources, our impact says X. How do I multiply that impact in community and society? Everybody has CSR fund. They don't know what to do. Instead of that, we provide them everything because it's a non-profit organization. So we make an impact for any activity we do up to 10 times at least, average. Yes. Yeah, please.
My name is Sudhakar Mampe. I had privilege of working for HIV/AIDS prevention in India, especially in Mba. Looking at Wockhardt as well as Simla, which took drastic steps of subsidizing or reducing the price. Still, WHO gets almost every year about 50,000 research papers, but HIV/AIDS is still on the growth. Still, in Africa or other European countries, still it is a menace. Number one.
No. HIV has come down. I don't agree with you at all. In India it has come down. It has come down dramatically in Africa. And also in the process, new HIV drugs have come where HIV is not as life-threatening as it was perceived 10, 15, 20 years back.
Multiple therapy has got considerable reduction in both HIV as well as cancer related.
Cancer. Okay, yeah, what is your question?
Question is that now, as a global person, what is the next step? What we call it as prevention is better than cure. Is there any research which you are doing for disease prevention rather than?
Okay, I got your question.
One more important thing is that
I should remember the question afterwards, if you give too many questions.
robotics are entering into the topic.
Use of robotics in research, okay. In research, okay. Okay. No, let me respond to these two questions before. The first question was, what are we doing? That's what I was talking of, transformation of our company. I think, which I didn't complete that thought process, that we are, next 10, 15 years, we are getting transformed from what we are as basically a pharmaceutical company making mostly high technology generic products in India, worldwide. I think 10 years from today, we will be more known as a research-based organization. The antibiotics which I talked about will be becoming a very significant part of our business 10 years from today, because all are coming in 3 to 5 years. These are global products. They are big ticket items because that is what it is. So I think we are transforming ourselves. Like I said, we became a global company, and which we are now. If you ask me after 10, 15 years, I think we will be more global research-based company. That's a transformation which is taking place. The second question was?
Robotics.
See, in research, robotics was used and is being used by most of the big pharma. And it's in use for last 20 years. Unfortunately, the robotics in research has not given the results people were expecting, and no significantly new drug has come out. Because I believe human mind is much larger and much bigger than any robotics can do. Because we underestimate what is the power of our mind, which I gave you one example. Similarly, in research also, it is the intuitiveness when we call it. What is intuitiveness? Research scientists uses very often this word, I am intuitively thinking this way. What it does, it calculates billions and billions of possibilities in mind and comes with a view. And ability to connect disconnected knowledge Innovation, creativity, research, whether you do in life, in business or in research, is ability to connect a lot of information and knowledge which are totally unconnected. And how you can put it together, some of them, that becomes the totally new. So that is what research is all about. But I don't undermine the value of informatics. Robotics, no. Informatics, definitely yes. Because what informatics does is creates the whole data of information. Today you get artificial intelligence, and so you will get a lot of answer which will get, and on the top of that you use your mind, you get much better result. But by itself, without a human intervention, you won't get that last mile differential which is necessary. Yes.
Hello, good evening. This is Aparna, and it was a very, very engrossing discussion that you had. My question is, you spoke about values. So I want to understand, when you create a legacy, that is the next generation that is handling the business now, how challenging it was, or how do you pass on the values, and creating leadership, the next generation, and the way they are handling business, and how they will pass it on?
A very good question. And that is what I am at it for last 10 years actually. So mentoring children with both the ability to take the right kind of decisions, learning how to take those decisions is very different. And I had followed 2 or 3 processes which were not generally followed. I don't know, people might be following, but I am not aware of being mentioned. First, I trust their judgment implicitly. In a sense that, because if they have to be a good entrepreneur and their ability to, I need to trust their judgment. If I don't trust their judgment, they will not grow up being an entrepreneur. And therefore, they must make mistake. And they learn from that. And I give you one example. All my 3 children didn't want to join my company. They wanted to do different thing because that's what it is. Their father has done, so I will do differently. So I allowed them to do it. On one condition, can you find another partner who can invest with you? I'll give you the half of it. And they were able to find a partner. For whatever reason, it was not a sustainable business, but they spent 2-3 years of their lives doing that. And I believed at that time, if they succeed, it is good. If they don't succeed, they will learn a lot. That's what I mentioned. And that is one. The second aspect which I follow very consciously is, I do not evaluate their performance like a professional manager, which we do organization routinely. I don't do that. I don't do that. And that is deliberate. I don't want to put them under pressure of performance as we do with executives. Because they are not executives too, in my mind, they are entrepreneurs. They should know their risk and the opportunities. So I talk on those terms, directional terms with them, rather than nuts and bolts. So allow them to grow them as a good leaders in their own right, and they respond. You know what, my daughter, she's young, quite young now. 3 years back, he comes and tells me, you trust me more than I trust myself. So that was the second thing we do. Thirdly, I don't criticize them, ever. And I don't point out their mistakes. I don't have to, they know it. So these are the things I do to nurture them.
and when they get admitted, they have to stay in somewhere lobbies and something like that. And so I would like to compliment you because being a pharmaceutical company, I think to my knowledge, you are the only pharma company which has developed into hospitals also, and you have set good hospitals. And so because Institute of Pharmaceutical and Environmental Society, you have visited many hospitals and you have invited us to address them, and also we have got a good lecture for them also. I would request everybody to organize some two hospitals in Oakard with the people and your specialist doctor to talk on different subjects which you have to listen. So you can just give your comments.
What is the question?
There is a dearth of hospitals.
Dearth of hospital. Okay, I'll respond.
So pharma companies have gone into hospital industry.
Yeah, I'll comment. See, unfortunately, our healthcare system in India, normally all healthcare system worldwide in developed countries and even emerging markets also, is generally taken care by the government. It is a government responsibility like education and health to provide. In Europe, nearly 95%, 97% healthcare is run by the government, excepting those people who have a lot of money, they can go to private hospital. Same in US also, it is a combination of government and insurance company. Which is true even in Russia, obviously, China also large, almost entirely by government. Even Brazil, Mexico, they have 50, 60, 70% owned by government. India, 80% is private, only 20% money spent in government, and you know how they spend the money. There is no public institution where you get good quality care. Look at India 30, 40 years back. It was those public institutions which were the mainstay of healthcare, where you had the best of the doctors, best of the facilities. So I think this is a big gap, and I don't know whether they will ever correct it. But as an organization, what we have done many years back, we recognize that in metro cities there are hospitals, but in smaller towns like Rajkot and Nagpur and Surat and Nasik, which are good sized town, 2 million population, there were no tertiary care facility. They were going to major cities. So we were the first to start a tertiary care facility with super speciality in all these places. And we got the specialists outside those cities because cities can't have them. Your heart surgeon or neurosurgeon or whatever it is. So that is how we did it. And I think now the trend is very significant. There's a lot of private equity is coming into India because healthcare is going to require more and more of this. So I think it would be the private investment which is there, but the challenge would be how many people can always afford it. So probably insurance sector could take over part of the burden. In city, about 1/3 is insured. 1/3 we get even hospital gets an insurance coverage.
Last question, maybe? Yes, go ahead.
The lady. No, okay, one here and then
Two more.
yours. Okay, two more. Okay, you can ask the question.
Good evening to everyone present here. I'm Himakshi Shah from the Indian Institute of Management and Entrepreneurship. So, sir, I would be, we look at you as a social entrepreneur because you involve the problem in your value chain. So, I will be asking you a question regarding to your entrepreneur journey. So, sir, as you learned about your business acumen, or should we say the mental energy that you taught us today about. So, I wanted to ask about a particularly difficult situation which you must be faced, which you must have faced, and how you use the mental energy what we were talking about to deal with it.
Let me just state what my daughter Zahabia mentioned to one of the interviews he gave to Eco Times, which came in the paper also, and I was not even aware of it. So I read in the Eco Times and then I talked to her. So she was asked, what did you learn from your father? And she said, I have learned the power of calm. That is where I come to you when I talk of uncertainty, when I talk of ambiguity. You don't get rattled. You learn to live with that all the time. So you don't have to do anything. Sometimes somebody is made that way, to be comfortable. But I must tell you, all successful great leaders have this ability which is there. So getting too much excited every now and then is not one of the good signs of great leadership. It is ability to deal with uncertainty, deal with shocks, deal with unexpected, and still move on. Otherwise, you get paralyzed. The mental energy comes because the fear is like, I always call fear is like a balloon. You know, when balloon is full with air, it looks big. When you puncture it, it's not there. Fear is exactly like that. The fear is in mind. And if you convert that fear and deal with it, okay, every problem has a solution. As long as you know there is a problem, you are good. Because the solution is always there. The problem comes when we don't know the problem. So that the fear comes because we don't define what is my problem. Fear comes when we don't define what is my problem. So when you define your problem, you will find solution sooner or later. I'll take last question. No? Okay, fine. So thank you. Okay. Yeah, one more. Yeah.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah.
I'm Adil from Ashana Financial Services.
From?
Ashana Financial Services. A query on the pharma sector in general. Since most of the sector is export based, do you see a situation where the US FDA problem might come down a bit?
See, all these, it's a problem. There is a solution. What's your problem? So, in a way, over a period of time, this is going to strengthen our industry in competitiveness worldwide. It's a transient issue. Every problem has a solution. So industry is not going to just take it's a problem and do nothing there. Industry will respond to it. Once they respond to it and meet this challenge, people say it is very tough, it is biased. Okay, whatever it is, you deal with it because the market is there.
Thank you. Now, may I request Ms. Raj Nair, Vice President IMC, to please give a word of thanks, and also both the President and the Vice President may like to felicitate Dr. Khorakiwala, please.
Before the vote of thanks, I'd like to present a token to Habil for his kind coming.
Wow, Dr. Khorakiwala, you're not just a great entrepreneur, but a great mentor also. I think we're going to get you here once more to help many of the older members to become better mentors than they are today. But this program is meant for entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs. So let me just summarize or highlight a few of the important takeaways from his talk so that you go back and think about it and apply them. First thing he meant, and I'm not necessarily going in any particular order, he said, it's very important for you to find a purpose for doing something. You have to have a vision. That will guide you through all your ups and downs. You're pretty clear, and you'll do the right thing at the right time because you're pretty clear about what it is. And that's what helped him. The second thing is, he said, he's playing in a market. I don't know whether many of you youngsters realize that this game, the pharmaceutical industry, is one of the toughest industries in the world. And it's tough not just because it involves human life and other things and discovery of new things. It's tough because it's controlled by a few very large companies, which is called the big pharma. It's actually called the bad pharma because they are up to all kinds of tricks. You read enough books, you'll come to know about the kind of things that happen. So for an entrepreneur to have the guts to play in that sector and win handsomely is a very big thing. Now, he told us how he's done it. He's found gaps. He's found 3 gaps. One is the unmet need. He looked for something that is needed desperately and decided to play in that rather than play in an area where all the other competitors are trying to play and make some money. So he chose wisely antibiotics. Somebody else might choose some other gap which exists, but he's found that that's an area where he's going to invest. And the years to come, because bugs are getting drug resistant and not enough research is happening, he's jumped in. Likewise, you'll find situations where people are leaving some areas open or there's a need which other people have not realized. So both these types of gaps can arise. The third thing he's found is that in an industry where the big pharma is not really credible, I don't think he'll stand up here and say that, but big pharma is not credible, he is stuck to ethics and principles, and therefore a company like his will be respected globally. He decided to play globally. That comes to the third point, that is, he says, the importance of playing globally is that you learn a lot of things which you are not necessarily forced to learn in the Indian market. When the Bombay Club was very worried at the time of liberalization, companies like his were not worried because they played internationally. They know what competition is. Therefore, playing and having the second phase of growth with more in India was very easy for him. I'm not underestimating the challenge, but he's learned how to compete in the international market. So many of you, if you can think of global ideas and actually go and play out there, you'll find that your success rate is likely to be higher if you are able to manage that. Okay. The third thing he said is, look, think long term. Don't look for some very short-term thing. Even just this morning I was in Mahabaleshwar and somebody was telling me about the fact that there are 55 companies which have been set up for making small carry bags made out of non-woven plastics. Everybody thought, let's jump in, do it. They never thought beyond 2 years. Out of that 55, 5 are left. But as he said, every company has a life like we also have a life, and you have to regenerate it. If you don't have a long-term vision, you cannot do it. The way he's figured out how to be to transform from time to time is to invest and think long-term and invest in R&D. And he even told us how important it is to treat the people in the R&D differently from the people who are elsewhere. So, you may not have an identical situation, but there is a lesson for each young entrepreneur in that. And he says, ideas are many, but you got to use your brain. He says, gave the example of London Capital. The more you use your brain, the larger it becomes, and the more likely they're going to say, you don't need robotics. In fact, robotics does the lowest level job, repetitive job, more efficiently than an intelligent man. But if you want to succeed and be innovative, you can't use robotics. So with this, I'd like to thank you very, very much, because there are lessons not for young entrepreneurs, but for us also. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please join.